Hello, welcome back. So this week we are going to work on a can koozie. This one is a 12 ounce like skinny one for one of those, like White Claws or Trulies. I really wanted to do something fun for summer that's coming up. So I took the koozie and I didn't sand it or anything because I'm going to just be putting vinyl wrap all around it. And I'm actually going to leave the bottom exposed, so I didn't want to sand it and cause any issues with that. So I just cleaned it with acetone and alcohol, and this is what I'm going to use. I got the vinyl off of 95 Vinyl Creations, 95 vinyl. I'll have the link down below. But and then these two colors, Peanut and Highlighter, they are from the most recent Peachy palette box. So I measured the whole length of the koozie there, but what I had decided at the beginning, I was going to do the whole thing, but then later on you'll see I decided to actually cut that bottom part off and leave the bottom exposed for the stainless steel. So I cut like an extra inch off, and I also kind of cut it to where there was enough pineapples there to kind of have the design there, because it was kind of pineapples going every which way, and then there was flowers and stuff like that. So, but I wanted the pineapples to kind of be the focus. So just, be aware when you're cutting your vinyl or when you have a pattern vinyl like this. And the trick to getting your vinyl straight is just starting off at the very beginning and getting it as straight as possible in the very beginning. And then once you do that, you're kind of golden the rest of the way. Now I folded back a little piece of the backing of that vinyl, and then what I do is just leave that on there and just push it down as I go along. Now, as you can see right here, as I'm pushing the end part, because there's like a ridge, I don't know, however you want to say it, but I was trying to keep it straight on that. And that's when I decided, because I had a little bit of bunching down there, and I tried to wrap it down on the bottom, and I eventually just decided that I was just going to cut that whole thing off, because I continued to have issues with it going around. And I thought, oh, well, once I stretch it on the bottom, it'll come through. But it just never really looked right. And then I just cut the excess off after you wrap it around. That little extra tail that's on the bottom, I just sliced that off. So here you'll see I kind of wrapped it all around and then cut just that center piece kind of chunk out of that. And I left it like that. And then I went to the top and I sliced the top part just ever so slightly right below the line there, because I'm going to put glitter on the top and bottom. So I was kind of like, it doesn't have to be exact, because the glitter is going to kind of cover it up. So I went ahead and sliced this top part off. And then once I got all that kind of sliced around the top there, I went around and popped a few bubbles that had formed. I mean, it's inevitable with a full vinyl wrap that you're going to get a couple of bubbles. But it actually was pretty good. And this was a pretty decent pattern, so you couldn't really tell too much going on there. And this was when I decided that I was going to cut that bottom piece off. I just decided that, this was going to be something that you're going to have by the pool, or you're going to be, sitting outside, and it's going to be on the concrete. And I thought, it's probably best that we just keep this, open. And because of all the bunching and stuff like that, I just thought I was going to kind of create kind of a bubbly bottom, and I didn't want that either. So I'm going to take electrical tape. If you have painter's tape, you can use it, but the electrical tape really works really well for this, because it's really stretchy and it just sticks really well to the stainless steel. So I make sure that I put the tape right up next to that vinyl, because when we take this off about 45 minutes into epoxying it, we're going to take that off. It's just going to kind of fall over that vinyl, and that's what you want. And at the very top, where this is kind of like got a screw top that goes on top of it, we are going to tape all around that to kind of keep that screw top safe. And then that way the epoxy kind of falls right over that vinyl on the top too, so we can create a seal there. Then I taped off the top part because I am going to be putting epoxy on this so that we can glitter it. And I just didn't want, because I kind of have a tendency to, when I'm epoxying for glittering, I'm using such a little amount that I'm kind of pushing and pulling, and so I didn't want any epoxy to get anywhere that I didn't want it to go. And if you do that, you'll understand what I mean by that. So I just kind of wanted to protect any open stainless steel so that I could just focus on the vinyl and a glittering there. So here I took peanut, and there were some chunky pieces in this, lots of chunky pieces in this glitter, but I actually left the shaker on. I didn't take it off because I just wanted just a little bit of glitter. I didn't want it to be, kind of flowing down the cup or anything. I just wanted to frame the bottom and the top. So at first I took peanut and just sprinkled that on just ever so slightly, just around the edges. And then I cleaned up that right there and put that back in the shaker. And I went right into putting highlighter on. And I did those, I did it just kind of as a mix to kind of bring out that orangey and that yellow color in the actual pineapple. There's actually a lot of colors in here. It's a really, really cool vinyl. You've got to get it to see. And then I went right back into putting some more peanut on there. The highlighter seemed to come out a little bit better, so the peanut I just was kind of still keeping it in the shaker, but just adding a little bit more to it. And then right after that, you want to make sure that you remove that tape. You don't want the epoxy to cure with any of that tape around those edges. And here I just took a coffee filter and I just patted down some of that chunky glitter and kind of got any of it that was on the stainless steel there on the rim, on that twisted part. And I just kind of patted it down just a little bit. I just wanted it easier for whenever we go into epoxying. And this is crucial too. You want to make sure that every time you epoxy that you are putting brand new tape on there. You're taking it off about 45 minutes into the epoxy. 45 minutes to about an hour. You want to make sure that you're taking that tape off so that the epoxy can just kind of cure right over that last layer that you put on there. So in this instance, this is our first layer of epoxy. Well, except for that little bit that we put on there to put the glitter on. But this will be our first like true layer of epoxy. So you just want to make sure you're taping everything off. And what I do with the tape is I just ever so slightly kind of keep moving it a little bit higher so that you're creating a seal on that last coat. Hopefully that makes sense. So, but every time you want to make sure that you're taping that off. You don't want to not do that and then you have a mess on your hands. And this is what it looks like when it has the epoxy on there. The epoxy is going to get on that tape, but if you get any on the stainless steel, you just take a little baby wipe and wipe that off. And then, like I said, 45 minutes into it, you want to take that off and let that epoxy cure over that. So here we come to the design space portion of this video. So I decided that I was just going to go with the word summer because why not? That's what I'm making it for, so that I can have some fun this summer. So what I did was typed it out in my preferred font, and then I used the letter space and just kind of spaced it out, or minimized the space so that we could kind of bring them together. And you can do this really easily with a print word. If it's a cursive type of word, sometimes you have to ungroup them and do it that way. But this one, I ungrouped it so that I could make the S a little bit bigger. So what I did was aligned everything at the bottom there. And then I also duplicated the S. That way, if I ever came back in here, once I weld it and do all of my stuff, I know what font I use, because sometimes you'll go back and think, what was that font? And I just duplicate one letter so that I know what I did and what I used. So I was just kind of moving the letters together just a little bit more, just kind of, I wanted them to be like almost touching, but not quite touching. And like I said, I wanted that S to be just ever so slightly bigger than the rest of it. So now I clicked on the offset button. And here we are going to start off with a small version of the offset. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate summer, because I want to keep that down at the bottom there. Okay. Because I'm going to test it onto each one, and you'll see why in a minute. So what I'm going to do is attach these two pieces. Okay. Because I want just the summer, just the offset to be there. Okay, but I don't want to lose the rest of them. So I attached the two together, and then I went in and I did another offset, and I made it just ever so slightly bigger, right? And so now I can test it to see and make sure that I'm on the right track. So then I take that and I attach it again. Okay, then I go back in and do another offset. And this is just ever so slightly bigger. And I kept them all the same size. So they were growing the same amount. I didn't change the offset setting measurement, right? So I just kind of kept it the same. So then I attached that, and then I did the next offset. Okay, I had these certain colors that I wanted to use that were pulling in from the vinyl pineapple that I did. So that's why I used all of them. That's why I did so many, because I wanted all those colors to be on there. So what I did was I detached everything. And now I have all of my little offsets, right? And then I don't need the bottom summer anymore. I would think I was just testing just to see what it looked like, but I think I delete that at one point, because there it is. So and everything kind of changed colors, because it just kind of gives everybody a new color as you're making more and more offsets. It just changes the color to ever so slightly to the different gray and black and gray and black. So what I was doing was changing each one of those layers into the colors that I actually am using my holographic vinyl. So I was wanting them to reflect those colors, so that I knew that I had all the colors, as many offsets as I had the colors that I wanted to use. Hopefully that makes sense. I deleted that one because I didn't need that one anymore. That was just my kind of what I was using to kind of see how the sizes of the offsets were going. So this is what I decided I was gonna make it go across, and then eventually I decided that I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, but I wanted to see how the size was. So I pulled all of these, and I was going to show you that this is how we're going to place them on there. So this is where that like old 70s style kind of look comes in. And so what we're going to do when we put them on the koozie, we are going to offset them as well to make them kind of 3D coming off. So here is where I was going to show you how to, if you had just like little pieces of the vinyl, or if you wanted to cut each piece of the vinyl instead of having to do all those mats, you can just cut out each size of the word of how big it's going to be, and you can move them to one mat and place them on the mat strategically to be cut in the spots that you put those particular colors in. So you just hit those three little dots there and say move object and move them there. Now, one caution is that the colors don't stay the same. So you really have to know what color you were going to use for what size. So I'm taping off this stainless steel after 2 coats of epoxy, because what I'm going to do is file down any of the glitter that's kind of still sticking up, any kind of big sharp edges. I'm going to just file those down. And then after I file it down, I'm going to go through with a sanding block and just sand down any of those sharp edges and just kind of get it smooth so we can apply our vinyl. But I also made sure that that tape stayed on through that whole process, because I didn't want to scratch any part of that stainless steel on the top or that bottom. Okay, so these are the holographic vinyls I chose. One is a Cricut Miami sampler. The others I found off of Amazon and whatnot. So I will definitely link everything below. If I have the link, I will link it. But if not, you could definitely, with this vinyl, use any kind of holographic vinyl that you have, because there is a ton of colors going on in those little pineapples. Here's where I decided that I was going to cut it at a little bit larger cut instead of the 2.75. I decided to do 3.5 because I was going to angle it. Anyways, this part here, I was changing each one of the offsets, each one as it's bigger to smaller, into the color, into the corresponding color of that vinyl, because I wanted to make sure that when I was cutting it, I was cutting the right vinyl with the right size. So I was just reshaping it. I actually made it to be 1 inch, 3.5 by 1 inch, just to give me a little bit more working space. Now here, I actually am just kind of stacking them in the order that they're going to go on, because I actually put each one on the koozie before putting the other one on. I didn't stack them all together onto one little piece and then applied it there, because it actually works better when you apply it one by one, because it kind of has it's able to stretch onto the cup or the koozie or whatever you're working on. And then when you put the next one on, you can kind of stretch that one to work as well. So that was just like, it just seems to work better for me in the long run than when you're trying to just stack them all on one thing and then put it as one piece onto the koozie. So this is where I kind of started, where I kind of started on one side and made sure that the S, the kind of the right side of that top curl of the S was aligned with the top, the first one on that S, so that they staggered ever so slightly down. I hope that makes sense. This is another issue with Cricut vinyl. I swear it is such a pain, but the paper on the back like sticks to the back of the holographic. I don't know, but I take my little pen tool there and just kind of peel it off, and it seems to work really well when you have that problem. But it is like, I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I have that problem. But anyways, so I just took it to the side there and just kind of lined it up. As you can see, I'm trying to line myself up so that I could see where I was putting it. But it was turning out pretty cool. I really liked the staggered, kind of stair-step look of it. So hopefully this works for you. Hopefully you like it. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. So I got the last one on, and I used that light kind of yellowy color to put to kind of keep that in the front. And then I just weeded that little E part out. It was not coming off because of that paper being stuck to it. So I just took it off from there. So it's so fun and cute. I love it. Anyways, I put a little bit of Mod Podge just to cover that up, just to keep the bubbles from it. And it works really, really well. I just put a little bit of that on there, and then kept the tape on there from when we sanded it, and it's ready for epoxy. So this was one of the last 2 layers that I did on this, and I actually added a little shimmer because I was doing like 3 other cups that needed shimmer, so I just went ahead and put this one with shimmer too. It looks so cute. And there she is, so cute, so ready for summer. Ready for one of those drinks, really. This is going to be a great, fun little addition to your summer vibe. I hope you have a lot of fun making them. Be sure to join my Facebook group, and I will see you there, and I will see you next time.